What's up, everybody? And here, and today it's going to be a deck profile of my Primal Groudon deck for this Deck Tech Thursday. Now, the way I run this Primal Ground deck is a little bit different than what you would normally see, but I feel the deck has gained a lot of power with Fates Collide with the additions of Carbon Break and Regirock EX. And also, even though it's losing quite a bit of stuff, I get the feeling this is still going to be a very high contender deck come next rotation. It's just going to be built differently than we're used to, but I feel it's going to have in place in both now and in the future rotation. So let's get right into it. Now, the first little weird thing I do with this deck is that I only run a 2-2 line of it, 2 Groudon EX and 2 Primal Ground EX. Now, again, this may seem a little weird because most people with decks want to run at least a 3-3 of what the main deck is about. And the main focus of the deck is Primal Ground, so a 2-2 would be a little bit strange, but hear me out on this. Primal Ground is a big Pokemon, and like big in all aspects, big in HP, treat costs, energy requirement, but also damage, so he is very, very hard to knock out. Not to mention with that ancient trait he has there, Omega Barrier. Basically what that means is he is unaffected by all of your opponent's trainer cards, except for tools and stadiums. So basically what it means is that they can't play an item to get rid of your energy, like say a Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, or they can't play a Team Flare Grunt to get rid of your energy. Nor can they license him for the bench. So basically when you Primal Evolve into this, I know it technically says Mega, but I'm always going to say Primal. Whenever you Primal Evolve, he's staying there for as long as he wants. Like, Primal Groudon's going to come out when Primal Groudon is good and ready. And no amount of Lysanders or Pokemon catchers, whoever even uses those, basically nothing is going to get him out into the active until he wants to be in the active. So, very, very good in that aspect. And also Gaia Volcano is going to be his main attack. That does 100 damage for 3 fighting and colors, and if there's a stadium in play, it does 100 more. So 200 base with a stadium isn't bad at all, but there are plenty of ways to boost up fighting damage now because of everything we have. And also just 240 is just massive HP in general. And also for the regular Groudon, also has the attacks Rip Claw and Massive Rend. Now Rip Claw is nothing special, but pay attention to Massive Rend and why that's going to be important. I will show you later on in the video. Alright, now next up, what I believe is probably one of the vital pieces of the deck. It's going to be 3 copies of Carbon and 3 copies of Carbon Break. Now, the regular Carbon is a 90 HP basic Pokemon with the ability Safeguard, which prevents all effects of attacks including damage done to this Carbon by your opponent's Pokemon EX, which they are starting to become slightly more popular again, and they will once rotation happens, that I can guarantee. So that Safeguard right there is really good, and also 90 HP for a basic is not the worst either. So those back here. Now Carbon Break, I'm kid you not guys, this card right here is like probably the jewel of the deck, no pun intended whatsoever on that. It has the attack Diamond Gift. For a single fighting, does 20 damage, and you get to move 2 energy cards from your discard and attach it to one of your one of your fighting Pokemon. So it can even be this very same card bank you can attach to if you want to. And what that means by energy cards, it means basic or special. So say strong energy, you can attach strong energy from your discard onto your Primal Groudon, and that's already boosting up the energy it needs quickly, which as powerful as Groudon is, meeting up that 4 energy costs has never really been easy until now. So that's why we got 3 copies of the Carbon Break in there. And next up, we run 2 copies of Regirock EX. Now, the reason I only run 2 of this card is because, yeah, it helps out greatly, but Primal Ground doesn't really need 3 of them because he's already outputting massive damage as it is. But what Regirock does is basically a newer version of the Deoxys EX from the Plasma era, where your fighting Pokemon do 10 more damage to your opponent's Pokemon, but Regirock EX does not gain that boost. And as for Regirock's attack, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not something you would want to use unless you absolutely had to, which is Bedrock Press does 100, and during your opponent's next turn, any damage that the Regirock would take is reduced by 20. So again, not terrible, not the absolute worst, but again, still not something you want to rely on consistently. Unless, of course, you absolutely have to. And last up for my Pokemon line, I'm going to run one copy of Lucario EX. Now, in a lot of decks, I run 2 of this card just because it's so good. But I'm choosing with only 1 this time because the main reason why Lucario was good in fighting decks is because he sped things up a bit with Corkscrew Smash. And with Primal Groudon, there's not really too much point in trying to speed something up because it's not gonna speed up all that much. Primal Ground is not really meant to be a fast deck, but with everything it has going for it, especially the Omega Barrier, it doesn't really hurt him for being slow. So that's why only 1 copy of Lucario EX in here, mainly for Corkscrew Smash to attack him for a lot of damage and draw up until you have 6 cards. So definitely good in that. I don't run any Shaman in this deck at the moment because I don't feel like it's necessary in this current standard era, but once rotation happens, I may reconsider that. But for right now, I don't feel Shaman is necessary in this deck. Alright, now on to the supporters. Now, of course, we run our traditional 4 copies of Professor Sycamore. Very standard, just discard your whole hand and draw 7. Very good, and cannot wait until we get that awesome looking full art. Alright, next up, as far as standard supporters go, is 3 copies of N. Now, I really do wish we would get a new full art N. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, look at this artwork right here with the N and the Zora right there. I really wish they would make a new full art with just that. Something similar to that. That would be amazing. But very powerful supporter overall. Both players shuffle their hands to the deck and they draw for each prize they have. So at the beginning of the game, in case you have a terrible hand or not the best hand, but you get the feeling your opponent has an amazing hand, you would play N and you would both just reset your hand. Now, it is a little bit risky to play, but it is well worth the risk. Alright, next up in the deck, I run 3 copies of Karina. Now, I really hope we get this card reprinted soon because this is once the rotation hits, this is going to be a pretty decent, very substantial blow to all the fighting decks. Because what it does is you look for any fighting Pokemon from your deck and also an item card as well. So say you have a Groudon on the bench, you play the Karina, get out the Primal and the Spirit Link. All off 1 supporter. So very good card indeed. And very sad to see it go once rotation hits. But honestly, they've been reprinting a lot of cards lately. So let's hope we get really lucky and Karina comes in and reprint them some more and some of the more future sets. Alright. And next up for my supporters is going to be 1 copy of AZ and 1 copy of Lysander. Now, Lysander is just for obvious reasons. Pick off one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that you want to get rid of. And also AZ is just to pick up one of your Pokemon. Now, like say you have a Primal Groudon with a lot of damage on it. You would just play the AZ, pick it up. Everything else gets discarded, but that's okay. Because the only real thing you're losing is the Focus Sash. Everything else is just energy-wise. That's just fodder for the Carbon Break to use Diamond Give and get it all back. So really, AZ is very good in the deck. All right, now for the items. Gonna play our standard 4 copies of Via Seeker. Very important in every single deck. Cannot run less than 4 in any deck whatsoever. Get a supporter from your discard into your hand. Very good. And even though it's a little pricey for an uncommon, it's definitely worth the price. Trust me. All right, next up, I run 3 copies of Trainer's Mail. Now, a lot of decks run 4, but currently because of Karina, I only need to run 3. But once the rotation happens and we lose Karina, then yes, I would highly recommend 4 Trainer's Mail. But for right now, 3 Trainer's Mail is perfectly fine. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck and pick out any trainer you see there except Trainer's Mail. Next up is where things also get a little strange. Only 2 copies of Ultra Ball. Now, you would figure that I would run at least 3 copies of Ultra Ball in this kind of a deck, but I think that 2 would work fine, mainly because of all the Karina that we run. Not even just the Karina, but all the ways we have to get the Karina. Like, say, the Trainer's Mail, or the VS Seeker if it's in a discard, so... And you don't want to be throwing away too many stuff. I mean, throwing away energy is fine, but that's really the only thing you want to be throwing away in this deck is energy. Everything else you do not want to be tossing, so that's why the 2 Ultra Ball for that. And also with that, run 2 copies of Battle Compressor to go along with the discarding thing with this deck, because of the fact that you play this, discard 3 cards from your deck, which is mainly going to be energies, so it can be accelerated to the Primal Groudon, but you could also discard supporters this way and discard a Karina with that and play the VS Seeker. As I said, another way to get the Karina back into your hand. So that again applies why I only run 2 Ultra Ball. But still, Battle Compressor, very, very good. Another substantial hit once rotation happens. But again, I still think that Primal Ground is going to be a contender once rotation happens, just in a different kind of build than we would be used to. All right, next up, 2 copies of Mega Turbo. Now, very, very good in this deck. Now, I see this question asked a lot. Yes, Primal Groudon is a mega Pokemon in the TCG. Even though it says Primal... Here, let me show you guys quickly. Even though it says Primal Groudon, not the M, the Mega is right there. So yes, this is a Mega Pokemon. And I mentioned that because I get asked that a lot, whether or not Primal Kyogre and Groudon are actually Megas in the TCG. And the answer is yes, they are. So Mega Turbo does in fact apply to them. And for Primal Groudon, that's amazing because all your energy is going to be in a discard. Well, almost all your energy. And you would just play the Mega Turbos just to accelerate even more than you already do with the card bank. So, very, very powerful in the deck. And next up here, going to be running 2 copies of Focus Sash and 2 copies of Primal Groudon Spirit Link. With a Groudon Spirit Link. I don't know why I said Primal Groudon Spirit Link. Just probably because the artwork of Primal Groudon is there. But Focus Sash, very, very good because you could just attach it to your Groudon and then just Primal Evolve and end your turn, which is again good because don't forget the Omega Barrier. So even if you do just end your turn with a Focus Sash onto the Primal Groudon, all it means is that he can't be one-shotted now. And honestly, it's again like I said before, he's going to come out when he's good and ready. So once you do that, you don't really have to worry about anything forcing him out earlier than you would plan. So that's why attaching Focus Sash to the Groudon isn't bad, but you could also attach it to the card bank as well to keep it alive for a turn, because even though it protects from EX Pokemon, non-EX are still very powerful, and there's definitely some non-EX Pokemon that can one-shot card bank. So Focus Sash is good for him as well. And the Spirit Link, obviously, just so your turn doesn't end when you go Primal with him. So, like, even though we run the Spirit Link so your turn doesn't end, Focus Sash onto the Groudon to evolve and end your turn isn't a bad idea either. Just because it's a good way to keep your Groudon alive longer. Because there's not many things that are going to one-shot it, but it is possible to one-shot a Primal Groudon. Just very hard. And next up, I run 2 copies of Floatstone and 1 copy of Switch. Now, this is mainly for the Regirocks in the deck because they have a high retreat cost, and you do not ever want those guys in the active. So I run these ways to get them out of the active, and also the AZ as well. But you could even attach this to a Primal Groudon if you so wish. Just attach a Floatstone to him and just Primal to end your turn. So again, it's just more tools to attach to your Primal Groudon if you so choose. And also the Switch, very obvious, just switch one of your Pokemon. And now for the Stadium count. run 4 stadiums in this deck. 1 copy of Scorched Earth, 1 copy of Fighting Stadium, and 2 copies of Shrine of Memories. Now this is why I told you guys to pay attention to that massive rend earlier. So when you have a Primal on the field that's evolved from this Groudon, and you have the Shrine of Memories there, you could use the Shrine of Memories to use massive rend instead of the Gaia Volcano, which 130 may not seem like a lot, but you gotta remember it like this. So say the base so far is just 130, right? 150, 170, then 190. Like let's even just say he only has 2 strong energy there, so 150, right? All of a sudden, boom boom, 160, 170. You're one-shotting almost every EX out there that's not a Mega, with not even having to blow up your stadium. And honestly, I was nice and said 2, but really because a card being 3 is definitely not out of the question whatsoever. So 130, 150, 170, 190, 200, 210. 210 with just massive rend right there. And that's all because of Shrine of Memories. Like, that's just insane. I mean, I've thought of it in the past, but there really wasn't too many ways to boost up your energy. Well, not energy, your damage, until now with the Regirock. So that's why the 2 copies of Shrine of Memories. Because yeah, don't get me wrong, Gaia Volcano is an incredibly powerful attack, but you can only use it so long as you have a stadium in play. Now, if you just do what I said, just keep using the massive rend with the Shrine of Memories and all the boosted damage you're getting, then you're just dealing massive damage with no cost to you whatsoever. The normal cost being having to discard a stadium in play. Now, obviously, if it's your opponent's stadium, that it's in your favor to use the Gaia Volcano. But you get rid of the stadium, put on Shrine of Memories, just use massive rend as much as you can. Now, if there comes a point where you have to use Gaia Volcano, then obviously you would use Gaia Volcano. But that's why I choose Shrine of Memories, just for the massive rend to do a lot of damage with the previous evolution attack. And also these 2 here are just for the obvious reasons. Scorched Earth, just a discard fighting energy and draw a card. Just a bit more draw here, and just Gaia Volcano fodder. Same exact thing with Fighting Stadium, just the boosted damage that it does to other Pokemon EX. Definitely very good Gaia Volcano fodder. And that about does it for the stadium lineup. And now for the energy count, it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basic fighting energy, and 1, 2, 3, 4 strong energy. Just let me get that in there. Just about the basic lineup you would see as far as energy is concerned for a Primal Groudon. So with that, that's going to be ending my video. And hopefully this can take on Professor K's Mega Sceptile deck tomorrow. But unfortunately, my streak has not been looking good recently. But that's alright. That's alright. Primal Groudon is a very powerful contender. And we shall see how things go tomorrow. Hey, maybe this could be the second victory for N. Because if you remember, my first victory was with another fighting deck, my Medicham deck against his Zygarde. So who knows? Who knows? This could very well be N's second victory. But only time will tell. So, if you liked this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And be sure to stay tuned for tomorrow with our Battle Frontier Friday, where again I take on Professor K's Mega Sceptile deck. And yes, Professor, I'm going to keep saying Mega Sceptile. So, this has been Professor N, and I will see you guys later.